Hello, Toss today here with my first time special guest from Canada. It is Jeff Lennox Turner. Jeff, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. How you doing, Toss?
I'm doing good. We had a major rainstorm today, and it looks like we may get hit again. So, Jeff, if the power goes out, it's nothing personal, okay? But
It rained pretty bad here today. Actually, we got some storms coming through as well.
well, it is that time of year, at
Yeah.
least for us here. Anyway, the folks may not know this, but I sent you a request about 2, 3, 4 months ago. I can't remember, and you politely had declined. If you remember?
Oh, I remember. It was actually in February. I was checking my secret email in my YouTube account that I didn't know that was there. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I had to decline. I just wasn't ready for it. I just didn't feel prepared enough to do anything live. So,
Well, I
uh,
remember it somewhat that you said something like, "Gee, thanks," but I think you were already on the verge of quitting or something because there was something about not having a thick skin.
oh yeah, yeah.
And
It
I
was
was
just
right, right. And like, if I may say briefly, I was like, gee, I'm sorry to hear that to myself. I think I wrote something like, I suppose if you're really neat to quit or something. But see, I had to base my response, folks. I had to base my response on the fact that Jeff is somewhat new to this. So my response had to be somewhat friendly and sensitive. And I think I replied, Jeff, if you quit, I'll kick your ass. No, no, I didn't say that. I forget. You know what I said, but
Yeah. No, you actually talked me out of it. So I appreciate that. And also, there was a lot of other support out there, especially shout out to Charlie Henson. He was one of them that kept me going as well, and Run Level Zero.
cool.
So yeah, there was actually quite a bit of support from the YouTube community. I was really surprised at that.
Well, I suspected, I mean, I was trying to read between the lines and stuff. I suspected you were getting a lot of negative, well, I suppose worse than negative comments, if I was to guess. I don't know that for a fact.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Trolls, whatever you want to call them. I mean, I've been doing this, it's been over 4 years now, believe it or not. Thanks to everybody out there and you, of course. But, in over the 4 years, and I was getting, negative comments worse than that really from the beginning. But I suppose it's human nature to kind of forget all the good ones comments and then focus on the one or two bad ones.
yeah.
For me, it was the opposite. I kind of ignored all the bad ones, or if I replied, I tried to be respectful, and then if it didn't work, I would just end it with a quick, snarky remark and move on. But for me, it was the one comment that will always stick with me. I think it was Ubuntu for Dummies or something. I didn't think it was all that special of a video, but the reply was, "Thank you. This is exactly what I was looking for. God bless you." I'm like, hey, maybe it's time for me to move on. But look, I know exactly how you felt and feel, been there, done that. You were just trying to call it as you see it, like I do,
Yeah.
to the rest of the beginners out there. And really, you know your channel and my channel, they're not designed for power Linux users. That's not
No,
us.
no, no.
So anyway, that's why we're here tonight. So I'm glad you said yes. So
Well, yeah, I'm glad to be here. And it's just, I was actually having a nice conversation the other day with Buyer Brown. He invited me to do some extra videos for his channel, Scannerdrome.
mm.
And he said to me in a personal conversation, he said, well, if you don't have trolls, you're doing something wrong. So,
Oh, I guess that's good. Send in the trolls. Not to me, to you, not me, but no.
that means that you're doing something right and that you're popular enough to have a troll. So,
Uh, I I see his point. Yeah, because I suppose if you're getting, well, what's that old saying? Any kind of PR is good PR or something like that.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but well, good. Well, I'm glad you survived the troll storm, as it were.
Trolls.
I don't know what else to call it, but
Yeah.
um, I went to see Godzilla yesterday. Cool movie. Just ignore the first 20 minutes and you'll be fine. But I got to tell you, it was great watching him, squash all those Linux bugs and Windows malware. It was awesome. But no, there was a preview. There was a preview of a movie called Into the Storm that comes out in August.
Okay.
Some kind of disaster movie, hence the joke Troll Storm. Hey, that sounds like a movie, actually. Hey, if somebody out there makes it, I want the copyright on it, okay? But anyway, moving on. How did you get started with Linux?
How did I get started with Linux? Well, I was tired of beating myself up and saying it's all me and nothing to do with Windows.
Mm.
Because I was taught as a young child that it's always due to human error. But over time, I realized that viruses do exist,
Yes.
and people like to destroy your system just for fun.
Yes.
And it was getting to the point where I was signed up for a certain virus scanner subscription every year.
Yeah.
And it was getting infected itself. I'm like, there's something wrong with this whole idea of protecting your computer and then getting it infected as well, and it's trying to protect your computer. Like, how valuable of a product is that?
Yeah. Well, my escapades, my life with Linux started, and I think I might call this podcast Life with Linux, but it started back in 2005, 2006. I came across something in Popular Science magazine or something like that, and it said, hey, tired of Windows XP? Why not try Ubuntu? Of course, my first reaction was, what the hell is Ubuntu?
Yeah.
So, just as a newbie would now, I suppose years later, I dug some more, downloaded it, burned it on a CD at the time, and my first impression was, man, this thing is really, really fast compared to XP. I mean, really fast. But at the time, and I have lots of patience, it really wasn't ready for prime time for beginners. It was still like it was a work in progress. I tried it for a year. I tried different distributions. They just were not up to par with Windows XP, at least at the time. Not now, but at the time. So about a year or two later, I kind of stopped. Being a daddy to my kid, he is a teenager now, but I kind of stopped. At around 2009, I started messing with Linux Mint, which appeared to be and still is more user-friendly. So 2009, late 2009, early 2010, I thought, you know what? I like what I see. It's got better. And of course, curiosity gets the best of us. I was looking on YouTube, trying to find, tell me as you see it, a beginner's channel for us beginners. At the time, at least I was a beginner. And to make a long story short, it was just total BS. I didn't want strictly Linux users telling me, hey, Linux is the best. Well, of course it's the best if that's all you use. I didn't want Windows users telling me Windows is the best, or Mac users telling me Mac is the best. If that's all you use, gee, I wonder if it's going to be biased. No.
Yeah, that's the way I feel on my channel. I don't want to really go down that road.
Yeah.
To where, I'm only Linux. No, I'm not. I actually, at work, I use Windows, and it's extremely slow and annoying. But, I mean, it works. It works for what I have to do for my day job. So it's like,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy Windows 7. It's not as fast as Linux, but I will say this overall, and I may get some comments on this. Overall, updates take forever. That's what really I despise. It's like Spatry says, wash, rinse, and repeat. Oh
exactly.
My freaking, that part completely, totally don't like it. And this is a family channel, so I have to watch what I say. But that being in terms of everything works out of the box and more stable than Linux, it is. Now, some people say, well, how can you say Windows is stable? The Linux kernel is this. I said, time out. I'm not talking about just the code or the kernel. Yes, the kernel is an amazing feat of human engineering, but what about the rest of the OS? It seems like when new distributions come out, Jeff, wait about 3 or 4 months and everything else catches up.
Yeah.
Like us content creators, you had an issue with Kdenlive codecs and this and that, bug regression. That's here to stay. With Windows 7 and probably Windows 8, you download it, it works, period. It's not free. Well, the operating system is not free, but now there is a lot of free software in Windows, such as there is, and of course in Linux, that is free. But overall, in terms of a complete operating system, I've had less issues with Windows 7. Now, that being said, let me qualify the answer. If you
Hmm.
buy a computer, a Linux-based computer, such as a Chromebook, okay,
Yes.
I expect everything to work out of the box. I think I had talked about this with Matthew Moore,
Yeah.
who bought his first Chromebook, and he was surprised and absolutely loves it. If you buy any computer, I expect it, even Linux, I expect everything to work out of the box. Now, some may say, well, gee, 100%, that's unrealistic. But look, if I want bugs, I just download them. Or just download a distro with bugs in it. I paid for no bugs, right? You know
Well,
what I mean.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
if
yeah.
I'm going to the store and I'm going to buy a Chromebook, spend a few $100 on the thing, I want it to work. And the good thing is it is backed, by Linux, like
Yeah,
inside.
yeah,
But it's the fact that you can pick up a phone and say, "Hey, I got this problem." If you
yes,
do have a problem,
yes.
and
Um,
if you download Ubuntu or Linux Mint, you can't really pick up a phone.
well, unless you're doing
So
commercial server stuff and there's support, but that's paid support, but that's a different story.
yeah,
Of course, a lot of people,
exactly.
why should I pay for Linux is free? Well, then expect the bugs. I mean, buy a computer. If you really need it to work out of the box. I mean, for me, I have to dual boot because there
Right.
are times that something breaks and whatever, Ubuntu, Linux Mint, or something breaks and it's like, well, do I really want to try and search for an answer? Now I'll just go to Windows 7, do what I got to do, do the video editing or screencasting done, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I do have patience. When some things break, I will take the time to search for an answer, just like you have.
Yeah.
But there are times, no, I'm just not in the mood. Now, for beginners, let me just say, and you can probably vouch for this.
Hmm.
I still recommend the Zorin OS, Linux Mint, the Ubuntu. Ubuntu probably a little bit more reading is involved, but those three are my top three choices for beginners. What are your top three choices?
I recently actually looked at Netrunner, and I can't believe the stuff that they have installed that I don't have to install, like
Hmm.
codecs and things like that. That is a very good system. They
Cool.
got something going with that one. And then below that, I would say it's usually Ubuntu or Linux Mint. I just find that they're the easiest to use out of
Okay.
all the ones that I've tried.
Linux Mint appears to be one of the easiest anyway. I would put Zorn in that category. Now, of course, I've kind of outgrown Zorn. I mean, I don't need my computer, my Linux computer, to look like Windows 7. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It can be customizable to make it look anyway. I think you had yours looking like Mac OS, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But for someone who is absolutely a newbie and wants to feel somewhat comfortable, you can't go wrong with Zorn because it looks like something you've seen before. And of
Exactly.
course, from there, after 6 months, a year, or 2 years, if you're comfortable, move on to Ubuntu, Linux Mint, or whatever. But I've always had good luck with Ubuntu after all the proper updates, very important. With Linux Mint, I believe all the content creation stuff is usually there. Now, I haven't done a full test of the RC candidates. I haven't done any, Kdenlive stuff or, screen recorder. I'm just going to wait till the full release is out, the final release rather. Maybe someone had asked, do a full test. Well, I haven't yet. I normally use Ubuntu, the latest one, 14.04. Have had no issues with codecs or screencasting or Kdenlive, not yet.
You haven't have you used it recently? Because I've been having a nightmare probably last 4 days or 5 days with these H.264 codecs when I'm
Okay.
trying to render.
Um,
So
I haven't done a full test either in Ubuntu, but as far as recording, I
mhm.
usually use Kazam or
Yeah,
Simple Screen Recorder.
Kazam does work.
Okay.
Simple screen. I had it in H.264 codec and
Okay.
crash.
Mm, I forget which codec I use. It may be MPEG 4 instead of, or yeah, maybe that. Now in Kdenlive, Jeff, I will
Hmm.
choose one of the two in terms of rendering. Either MPEG 4 or even MPEG 2 seems to work. I know MPEG 2 is older,
Yeah,
but it's stable.
yeah.
And at least in my machine, I have a dual core. I haven't noticed that much in quality or rendering time. So I just pick what works. I haven't used the H.264 one yet. So.
I forget who it was. Somebody just released a video on OpenShot and the the crashing nightmare that this guy was having,
Mm,
and I'm
yeah,
like, what is he
yeah.
talking about? What is he talking about? And I got OpenShot up. I started rendering, and you do too much in it. You edit things too much, it'll crash. If you
Mm,
don't hit that save button, it's
yeah,
over. You got to
yeah.
start all over again.
Yeah, I just never found OpenShot quite as bug-free or as intuitive, at least for
It's
me.
a mess as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
It keeps on crashing.
yeah. Kden Live is really is the one to go with. One of these days I'll do a Kden Live for Dummies, or at least show them what I do. Yeah, I think for editing, for us, content dudes, I think Kden Live is the way to go. So let's see. Looking at my notes here. What made you get started with YouTube?
Well, it was a multiple of things. I felt strongly about the Linux community. I thought, it saved me from a nightmare from getting viruses every day. I kind of wanted to give something back, but I didn't really know how to go about it. I was just basically kind of shadowing what other people were doing online.
Yeah.
But I just kind of want to promote it. I think it's one of those things that need a little bit more promotion around the world, because everyone, you say Linux to somebody, they're like either what, or they'll laugh at you.
Like it's geeky stuff, and
Like,
some
oh,
of it
you're a
is.
nerd. Get out of here.
Some of it is, to be fair, some of it is.
Oh yeah,
But
that's
there are
definitely.
choices. So you were saying, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, the way my channel is going now, I kind of I feel more comfortable lately being
Hmm.
recording and everything and doing things like this, podcasting, and I just think it's going in a pretty good direction. And regardless of the trolls, I don't really care anymore. I just basically simply remove them. I'm not even going to respond to them anymore because it's just one of those things.
I have to ask it. You don't have to answer this, but was there one specific troll or comment where you wanted to go, you little piece of fudge, this and that, and that's it, I'm done. I'm done, you piece
There
of
was
dope.
that. There
Yeah.
was that one. It was actually just the other day. It had absolutely nothing to do with the video. So,
Hmm.
and so, you know what? I said to Charlie Henson one time. I said, you know what? It still counts as a view. So whatever.
Well,
I
okay,
win.
that's good for
I
the
win in the end.
stats. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So,
Um,
he basically called me a bald blankety blank, and then I didn't, not, it wasn't even a review, and blah blah blah. And the funny thing is, I'm starting to call my videos, when I look at an operating system or updated the latest version, I'm just gonna from now on call it a preview or an overview. I think review is maybe too strong of a word.
Yeah, in the past, some of my reviews, and when I started doing these in the beginning, this was back. I started early 2010 because I just didn't like what I saw, and I thought to
Mhm.
myself, you know what? Stop complaining and just do something about it. And look, it's easy to complain, Jeff, but to
Yeah.
get motivated and do something, so I thought, this is BS, and of course, from there, the joke goes from there came Total OS, but. Um, I thought to myself, let me just start doing these kind of a hobby because here, well, even in Canada in the wintertime, it gets very, very cold.
Right.
So I can't go out and play, as it were. So I'm stuck inside. And I don't want to play, Xbox all day. As much as I love my son, I don't want to do it all day. So I thought, doing this would expand my mind. So in the beginning, I didn't really take it that serious. I mean, I wanted to, learn just like everybody else did. But it was one of those situations where a lot of nice comments, but the exposure wasn't there. And I even thought about quitting myself, I will admit. But a year later, I ran into IG from Australia,
Okay.
Infinitely Galactic.
Yeah.
And his videos were quality stuff, and I was looking for quality stuff. Call it as you see, and no bashing. I think he dabbles with Windows, but strictly Linux, which is fine, but he calls it as he see. And every once in a while he would insert some jokes and stuff. There was one thing where he did the video, and then in quotes he had something about the codecs or pulse audio
Right.
doesn't work. I'm ashamed of myself, and so should you, Pulse Audio, or something like that. But it was fun. It was human, and I thought, you know what? Maybe he and I could do a podcast, and maybe together we can expose our channels. So I sent him a a podcast request. He said, fine. I said, okay, well, what's your time zone and all that? I said, well, these are the rules. I want no cursing, none of this. I want it to be a family thing. It can be random stuff like we're doing. And he says, oh, absolutely. And, when you're doing a podcast for the first time, you really don't know what you're getting into in terms of the other personality. You really don't.
Exactly, yeah.
But I thought I knew you long enough just watching that, everything is going to be fine. But you really don't know. Anyway, we did the first Tosscast. I didn't know what else to call it. So Tosscast podcast. We spoke for over 2 hours. I mean, the time just flew. And I thought this might lead to something. Now, of course, here we are, me and him, thousands of subscribers later, millions of views. His channel's grown, mine has grown. But, that's being part of the community. Sometimes we can help each other out to do what we feel needs to be done. And, of course, he and I continue. In fact, this week, May 31st, I need to contact would be the 3-year anniversary of the very first, Tosscast with him. So, yeah, time flies. Of course, I'm grateful that we clicked the first time, and he's been on multiple times, doing some of the stuff with me, him, and Spatry, of course. But I guess the point I'm getting at, when you said you were thinking about quitting, I thought, what, this is wrong if it's because of negative comments or trolls. I don't like to see people hurt, so I'm glad you didn't quit, for what it's worth. So
no, I'm not going anywhere.
Cool.
But I do like IG. I enjoy his work. He's very professional, straightforward, to the point, and he's just got a good personality on camera.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy his videos very much.
Yeah, he does great sound impressions when you kind of press him to it. He has that like talk show voice,
Yeah.
That he does sometime. But we were talking about reviews. Yeah. In the beginning, I really didn't worry too much. I didn't worry too much about time or timeline. Some of the reviews were like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but now we're laughing now. But when you think about it, to do a full review, and I mean full, even that's not enough time.
No.
When you really think about it, but at some point, I can't keep doing it because this takes hours and hours and hours to edit, and I wasn't really being paid for this. I mean, I still enjoyed what I did.
Yeah.
But I had to cut it down. That when I finally do the, quote, full review for mate and the mid to mate and the not raspberry, cinnamon. I got fruit on my mind tonight, but raspberry yogurt and all that. But
it's all good.
Yeah, I'll try to stay within the 10 to 15 minutes. I won't test every single app, but when I made this will be a full review based on what I use, such as screen recorder, KDEN Live, streaming radio. I may test those, and I'll say, okay, now based on my idea of a full review, this seems to work or it does. I think that's the only way to keep it short, concise, and to the point.
Well, you're right, because the reason being is that when you look at something like KDEN Live or Simple Screen Recorder, it has a lot going on underneath the hood, and that involves a lot of strenuous activity within your computer.
Yes.
When you're doing those kinds of apps, they're very hard on your computer because, especially when you're rendering, it takes a lot of power to render a video, especially if it's 45 minutes long.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
So
when you're doing long videos, and I'm going to clarify by that saying long, let's say close to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Unless you are somehow entertaining or a blooper here and there that makes people want to stay, people are just not going to stay that long. They just want to hear what you have to say, get to the point, good or bad, and move on to the next one. But I don't do those really long reviews anymore. It's tiring to do one after the other, and get to the point. And really, if it has to be a full review, I would say Part 1 and Part 2. Do 15 minutes.
Most definitely.
And then, you know what, folks, this is it for this. I'm going to do some more testing and then be back the next day or the next day, whatever, and go for it. I think that's probably more digestible, for lack of a better term. So.
Most definitely. I think my first one, that's going back over to the Zeven OS Neptune 3.3 is my first video. It's 32 runtime, 32 minutes. Who's really gonna sit there on YouTube for 32 minutes is beyond me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's look, unless it's one of those like doing a collaboration review, like me and you looking at the latest mint. Okay, Jeff, this is what I see. This is what you, and somehow merge those. But that would be even more work. So, yeah, I would say 15 minutes tops. To keep concise, or if it's longer, like and I think you split some of yours, haven't you? Or maybe not.
I've done that a couple of times, but actually my latest review, well, not latest, but the 14.4 Ubuntu release, it's 26 minutes long, and I even cut 10 minutes out of that. So,
well, what happens is you don't realize till you go into the full review as or it's like, holy crap, it's been 30 minutes or because you're talking about this, and you want to be as informative as possible. Well, this worked, this didn't work. Oh, I remember this. I remember when I went to the bathroom, but you start going to these tangents. You know what I mean? But,
oh yeah, certainly.
It's like, okay, this is time to stop.
I got to get what Dos Gregor's got going on his channel, where he's got a little timer. He seems to leave his simple screen recorder timer up on his screen, so he knows how long he's been going on for.
Yeah, unless it's requested, and I did have a request for a full review of Linux Mint. I think it was Mate or Cinnamon. I think it was Mate. I will do, but I'm not going to do it along. I'll just do what I feel needs to be done in the apps that I use, or some of the apps that I use. Test them real quick and just call it as I see it. Yeah. I think that's probably the best way to do it. So.
Yeah, I try to keep them as short as possible. Well, not short as possible, but at least a decent time for people to sit down, have their cup of coffee, and then go on what they have to do for the day.
Right.
So.
Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about you were talking about bugs and this and that. Have you noticed? I can't say it's 100%, but when it seems like most of the bugs are in content creation form, like codecs, screencasting, video editing. Have you noticed that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I have noticed that. The amount of bugs can vary from distro to distro. It can vary from kernel update to kernel update, from
most definitely
update to update in general. I've learned my lesson, and you may have heard this in the past, but if there's one update I absolutely will not mess with at all is video drivers.
No.
I've tried. In fact, I even tried it last week. Well, first of all, I go into the hardware drivers. I think in the new one, it's in Synaptic to see if there are any other drivers to install, such as, and there's none available from Ubuntu.
Yeah.
So I tried downloading what I call the extra video drivers, and I thought, let me check, because there's a couple of games I wanted to try, high-end 3D games, but you need the right drivers, and of course the right computer system.
Yeah.
I installed them. It borked the system, as it were, and of course, I fixed it. But I'm not blaming I blame myself. I'm not saying, but I said that's it. I'm done. But to be fair, I tried playing the game. What was the latest downloaded game? Stunt Rally.
Yeah, you did stunt. I watched that this morning. I was laughing.
Well, to be fair, though, come on, man.
It was a good video. It was humorous what you were saying in the video.
I did say, okay, this is enough of punishing you guys. I'm done. But no, I did try to Windows 7 with the appropriate drivers, and even then it was a little slow. So in my situation, I don't have the proper machine. It's not I have a dual core with integrated graphics. It's not going to cut it. So.
Well, and that's the thing, though. People don't realize, a lot of people, that when you're buying games, it's always dependent on what your system is. So it's different from going to the store, grabbing an Xbox game, and throwing it in.
Yeah.
It's way different from that. And a lot of games are very hard on your system.
Yes.
They're always wanting more memory, more this, more that. So I kind of stay away from the PC gaming. It's just you end up in a money pit after a while.
I don't mind. I mean, of course, with the Xbox or the PlayStation, those are designed for games. When you cough up $60 for a game, it's expensive, but it's going to work, unless
it's going to work.
It's scratched or it's defective. But look, it is going to work. For PC, I've had I've had requests in the past to do computer gaming stuff and gaming computers. I've hesitated in the past because being a daddy, I didn't want to take the extra time because that's extra hours involved. Now that my son's a teenager, I have the time, but I don't have the funding for it. So, but I have no problem testing PC games. It's like you said, it can be more time consuming, but I've come to the conclusion if you don't have the right PC, as we say in New York where I used to live, forget about it. It ain't gonna work.
Right, exactly.
And it doesn't matter if it's Linux or Windows, it ain't gonna, as you saw in my video, it ain't gonna work. So I recommend the quad core, a dedicated graphics card. With those specs, you're probably gonna be okay. Other than that, probably not. At least intensive 3D gaming. So.
Unless you, yeah, and then you can also buy into that Dell Alienware. It's designed for games as well.
Yeah, if you got a couple, 2, 3 grand to spare.
Oh yeah, 10 grand. It's not bad.
Or even higher. Yeah, or even higher. But here's the funny part. If I had the funding, like if the revenue coming in from YouTube was that high, and I had a request, I would do it.
Oh, for sure.
I would do it. I had a request this because this channel really, at my stage after a total of 9 years, this is for you guys. If this will help you out, I'll do it. I'll take the time, but I don't have the spare 10 grand, so I can't do it. But that being said, if it ever comes and I have the money, I will do it. I'm not saying tomorrow, but I will do it. I've had requests in the past for Mac. Other stuff, again, in the past, I've held off. And honestly, I don't know what kind of revenue you have, but the revenue from the YouTube advertising, which I'm grateful for, it's just not enough. It's just no way.
No, it's not. No.
Even after millions of views, it doesn't translate to millions of dollars, unfortunately.
No,
but
I wish it did.
Yeah, because if all those views gave $1, I know it doesn't work that way, and that's fine. That's the nature of the business. But I'm gonna have to try something else. I've tried asking people for donations. Thank you to all of you who have donated. Every little bit helps. It really, really does. But that helps in maintenance and buying little things, like you bought yourself a mic.
Yeah.
And I bought Bluetooth speakers, other little things I do reviews on, and I posted on the channel and on the shopping channel, whether it's requested or not. But in terms of go out and spending $2-3 on the Mac computer or other stuff, it's just not enough there. But I'm working on it, and I'll figure something out to try and get the revenue that is necessary, really, to handle all those requests. Because at this point, for myself, Jeff, I don't want to do the same old, same old.
Yeah.
I want to move on. But anyway, that's another topic. So so you use Windows. What's your favorite Linux distro right now?
I'm leaning more for Mint. Like I was huge on PC Linux OS, and I still do love that system. Actually,
I like
that's
it too. Yeah.
something that I didn't mention before. That out of the top 3, I should have mentioned that one actually, because that was the one that I kind of fell in love with the first time I tried it, because it was so. Once you got used to it, you go into Synaptic and you realize how much effort and repos they have in there. It's just amazing. So, well, but Mint. I just kind of stick with it because it was like the second distro that I tried, other than the standard Ubuntu. So
I don't really mess a lot or normally recommend rolling releases. And basically, for those listeners, a rolling release is a distribution such as Linux Mint Debian or PC Linux OS, where you don't have to constantly reinstall the operating system every 6 months, 9 months, or 2 years. They just update packets. I believe that's what they're called. So you don't have to reinstall. Then they're sometimes not as stable as, say, an LTS. But I will say this. In the short time I did full testing with Linux Mint Debian, I didn't really see that many stability issues, if at all. With PC Linux OS, I love the Mate edition. Right. It seems like the repositories, the amount of software is not as robust as, say, the Ubuntu or Linux Mint. So they've kind of locked it out. Maybe that's a bad term, but it's more stable, at least from what I've seen and tested. So in that sense, I guess I can recommend. But yeah, I do like the PC Linux OS, the Mate edition. The Netrunner version with Manjaro Linux seems stable enough, but that's even less choices of software. I downloaded and tried to install an RSS reader, Yarser, even though it said it installed it, it's nowhere to be found. It's just not compatible. But it is
Wow.
stable and it's fast. It's super fast. Well, relatively KDE super fast compared to the other ones. But yeah, if if people out there wanted to try, once you get your feet wet with Linux Mint or Ubuntu, wanted to try something different, it's like you said, try PC Linux OS or Linux Mint Debian. But bear in mind, these things may be subject to breakage more, although I haven't noticed that, at least in the relatively short time I have tested them. But I do like what I see.
I was on it for 3 months, and I never really had any issues with it.
Okay.
There's probably maybe a few things that went wrong, but they were fixed pretty much right away, so wasn't too
Cool.
worried about it.
Cool.
Um, There's some weirdness going around on my Cairo dock. I can't figure out. Well, it's kind of a cool thing.
I like that doc. Yeah. Yeah.
When I installed Chrome, it almost does like what Ubuntu does with Unity. When you install Chrome, you can add those Unity web apps.
Mm.
When I installed
Okay.
Chrome with Cairo,
Mm.
it asked me, do I want to use YouTube, solely YouTube, or solely, what do you call that weather widget?
Yeah.
WeatherBug. It asked me to use WeatherBug.
Okay.
But when I go into my Linux Mint menu,
Hmm.
it's nowhere to be found.
Is this cinnamon or mate?
This is Cinnamon.
Okay, I have noticed cinnamon is a little bit more buggier, whether it's the apps not catching up with cinnamon or the final cinnamon is not released. But I did notice there's bound to be a little bit more bugs in cinnamon than mate. An example is one of the RSS, I forget the name of it, where the news, it's like a scrolling bar of news at the top. Oh, what's it? I can't think of the name of it.
The ticker.
That's it. Thank you. It doesn't work. Instead of it like flashes like Morse code. It's like, hey, it's telling me toss. This thing sucks. Shut it off. No, it doesn't. In Mate it works fine. So there's some incompatibility issues with certain software. You're not alone. In Mate, you may find it works perfect. Now watch. I'll get people from Linux fans. Well, it isn't our fault. I didn't say it was. I didn't say it was. I'm just saying. You may have less issues with the Mate version.
Yeah, and those codecs that I've been having issues with, the H.264 codecs the last week or so. I
Okay.
know everyone's tired of listening to me talk about them, but it really affects my activity when I'm trying to render anything.
Try the MPEG
Um,
2 or MPEG 4. I mean, that's what I
I
normally
just
do. Yeah.
Yeah, the H.264, I just find it's so much more clear. I'm
Really?
picky. I'm so
Okay.
picky.
Okay.
But then when they started breaking them, I thought it was a Linux Mint thing because it was an RC, and it's not. I've tracked it down. It comes right from Canonical.
If I may, what are the specs on your machine?
My machine,
Is it a dual core or quad core? Or?
it's quad.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
got 8 gig of RAM and
Okay.
a 1 terabyte hard drive, and I forget the processor.
Is your video graphics card kind of hefty, kind of nice?
It's nice. It's pretty fast.
Okay.
It's an i5 Intel inside.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah.
That may be one of the reasons why you may notice quality differences because of your machine. Mine's a dual core, a 4
Right.
gig integrated card, which is fine for what I do. But if you have a heftier machine, you may see more difference in quality rendering or speed. That may be a possibility. I don't know. I just haven't noticed it that much with this machine. But that being said, if you like that codec, use it. But sometimes just trying to find a solution just ain't worth it. Just go to MPEG 2 or 4 and go from there. Trust me, people like us are out there are not going to say, hey, I'm missing that resolution. That's not quite the same. I don't think that's going to happen. So, or the pixels or.
The only time the people mention it on the comment section is when you point it at yourself. Most of the time.
Well, if you're going to expose yourself, well, sure.
Yeah,
Since
exactly.
you mentioned it, but
Since you mentioned it.
since you mentioned it, yes, it sucks. There, you're happy now.
Exactly.
I had done a video a couple years. It was maybe 2 years on these strange names that Linux that developers give Linux. I understand it. But to newbies, it's like this doesn't make any sense. Like there's a player called Dead Beef.
Yes.
Why not call it comatose cow? Or you know what
I
I
think
mean?
it is a little odd.
Dead beef or crunch bang. How about smash mouth? I mean, I get it. It's a term used by like when something breaks and you see the exclamation. I get it. What was the other one? Banshee music player. How about
Oh yeah,
ghost
yeah,
vagina or something like
yeah. They do come up with some pretty
that? Yeah.
strange names in the Linux world. I don't know where
Right.
they come from. I think it's more of a programmer background, and they really can do whatever they want.
Right.
They don't really have a specific, like at Microsoft, someone breathing down their neck,
Right.
saying you have to name it this and
Yes.
that's it. It's proprietary.
It's the freedom of choice and doing what picking the words, and that's fine. Just for me, it sounded funny. There was one on the Arch on the Netrunner
Hmm.
where you go into the repository or in the terminal to download a piece of software using Yowert. Like, what the heck is this? I just call it yogurt. You
I
download.
thought it was actually yogurt. I actually mentioned that in my last video, but it was
Okay,
actually the Yowie you were talking about. I thought you were
right.
talking about Uwake or whatever.
Yowert, Yaou. Right. It's like you know what? Just yogurt, but it's you spell it this way. But see, people will remember that. They're gonna say Yowert. Oh yeah, toss it
Yeah,
yogurt. That's
yogurt. Yeah.
yeah. Or Paymac. Paymac is the other rip-off. Paymac? Is that what it is? It's Pac-Man. That's what it is.
Pac-Man, PC Man FM file manager, and
That's
a lot of people call it Pac-Man.
and that's the other one that. But hey, it all works usually, and it's all good, I suppose. But
Yeah.
anyway, so what's your next project?
My next project, I was actually thinking of the whatchamacallit, the Netrunner Manjaro, but I'm not too sure what I want to do next. Someone requested me to do the Ubuntu because I left it out. Apparently, I don't know.
I think I did most of the Ubuntu. I don't. Yeah, I don't think I did Ubuntu. I mean, there's so many Ubuntus. I mean,
I'm just so Ubuntu'd out right now.
yeah,
I'm kind of tired of looking at them.
yeah. I actually need to upload the next series in the Ubuntu 2014 for Dummies. Those ones seem to be popular. I think I've done two or three, but I'll probably continue that. Of course, waiting for the final releases for the Linux Mints. Those are always, you know, highly anticipated. But I like what I see so far in the time I've been testing Mate. I really haven't noticed any bugs. Of course, I haven't done any full testing like you with the codecs and all that, not yet. But I think I'll wait to the final release to be fair, and then go from there. But once again, what I've noticed, once these new releases come out, you probably need to wait 3 or 4 months for the rest of the software and PPAs and the
Yeah.
SMAs and the NSAs to catch up, you know. But
Yes. Don't forget the NSAs.
yes, very, very important. I cracked the joke the other night, these things about drones and and spying. So I have a new song. Send in the drones. There ought to be drones, but no. Yeah. On that note, Jeff, do you have anything else to say?
No, that's pretty much it for me. I'm all talked out here.
Well, believe it or not, it's 10 o'clock almost. I
Yeah.
think we went over our 30-minute time limit, but this was fun, so I don't mind. Thank you for joining me. I'm glad you didn't quit. That would have been a loss, to the community, in my opinion. You call it as you see it, good or bad, willing to take the hits, as it were, like I have and still do over the years. But you know what? I don't care. I think that's why I'm still here because people want a no BS channel. That doesn't mean we're always right. I mean, of course we're not. No one is. But I'm
No.
glad you're still around, and and thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining me tonight. So
You're quite welcome.
we'll do it again. I don't know what the next. Maybe you can pick the next topic, and we'll just go from there. So
Yeah.
all right, folks. Thank you for listening and watching to both of our channels. I'll have all the respective links below in the show notes once I do the editing in this, and we'll do this again. And as I usually end these videos, we will catch all of you sometime in the future with yogurt. No, I'm just kidding. Later, guys. Later. Bye bye.
Bye.